Well, everyone, the iPhone 14 Plus and the iPhone 14 Pro Max are two very interesting iPhones that share some similarity but are also very, very different. So we'll take a look at both of these phones throughout this whole entire video and see which one is kind of the better one for the most part. But as you probably would have guessed it, I think the iPhone 14 Pro Max is probably going to be the better one, but there are still going to be some advantages for something like the iPhone 14 Plus as well. So if you want to go ahead and pick up either one of these particular phones, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular devices, the iPhone 14 Plus and the iPhone 14 Pro Max came out both in 2022. So these two phones were very, very nice, and I did actually enjoy these phones quite a bit. They brought a lot of stuff to the table, and with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this particular phone is essentially going to be giving you a pretty large 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So within this type of phone, it overall looks pretty good. I think this is one of those types of devices that you can easily go ahead and pick up and still feel like you're getting a pretty decent experience and a pretty decent time with it. It is a 60 Hz panel though, which is a little bit of a downside. If you're trying to go through and pick up a phone, it would be kind of nice to basically be able to buy a device that might be giving you a little bit of a better experience there. Unfortunately, this type of device is giving you somewhat of like a limited type of experience from that particular side, but it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is just going to be one of those things you might have to kind of think about. You're still getting the notch up top and it's a really big size panel, but it is a little bit of a downside when it comes down to it from that side. With the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this phone is basically giving you the exact same size display. So this phone is still going to be giving you a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, but this one's going to be an LTPO OLED display. So that right there is going to already give you a little bit more of an advantage when it comes down to that side. So that right there is going to be kind of a nice thing to basically have from that particular perspective. So if you're looking at a phone, that one is going to be giving you a 120 Hz display, which is really, really nice. And it's going to be brighter as well. Like if you're trying to go through and get a brighter, better looking display, that one is by far going to be the one that's going to be giving you the better experience there. So I, for one, if I'm about to go through and pick up a device, that one is basically the one that I would recommend probably a vast majority of people to go ahead and pick up. Because that's going to be a device that's definitely going to look a lot better. The display is going to look really nice. And that's the one that, like I said before, would make a lot more sense to go and buy for the most part. So from that particular perspective, at least on the front side, the iPhone 14 Pro Max definitely wins there. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here too, is that with something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this is also going to be one of those types of phones that's basically going to go ahead and essentially be it's going to look and feel way better than the iPhone 14 Plus. So once again, this is just one of those other minor things to keep in mind here as well, because if you're wanting the phone that is going to be giving you the better experience, but you're going to have to look at something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max because it is going to feel more expensive. And you're also getting the frosted glass back on the back side of that phone. You're getting a really good build quality inside of that phone as well. And it really is like a really awesome feeling phone for the most part, which is awesome. And a triple camera setup inside of that device as well. Now on top of that, with the iPhone 14 Plus and the 14 Pro Max, when it comes down to the price tag, a really big thing to keep in mind is that the iPhone 14 Pro Max's price tag is basically still going to be over $500 as of this point. So if you are wanting the phone that is going to be giving you the overall better experience here, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is basically going to be the one that could end up being a little bit cheaper for the most, though 14 Plus could end up being a little bit cheaper. So kind of keep that in mind in this particular situation as well. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it will just be one of those other minor things to keep in mind there. Now on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here too is that when you're looking at both these phones, the iPhone 14 Plus is giving you that dual camera setup on the backside, and the 14 Pro Max is giving you this triple camera setup. The megapixel count inside of the 14 Pro Max is going to be a little bit more than the megapixel count inside of the iPhone 14 Plus. So that main angle, the wide angle lens is going to be 48 megapixels versus the iPhone 14 Plus is 12 megapixels. So you're lacking a telephoto lens inside of the iPhone 14 Plus, but you're still maintaining the same resolution you can film in on both. So you can still go through and film in 4K at 60 on the front and the back of both these particular devices. So that right there is kind of a nice thing to have. You're basically getting that same type of capability between both, which is actually a really nice thing to have. So personally for me, like I mentioned before, if I'm going through and if I'm picking up a certain device, it is kind of nice to be able to go through and pick up a device that's going to give you that type of capability right there. So again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but if I'm about to go through and pick up a phone, I do actually want to go through and buy a device that might be giving me a little bit of better capability from that particular situation. So from the camera side, I probably will tell you that the camera on the iPhone 14 Plus probably is not going to be as good as the camera inside of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here too is software updates. As of this point, both these phones, as far as I know, are still going to be supported with software for basically the same exact amount of time. So nothing's really going to be happening from that particular perspective. I think you're still going to be able to get a long-lasting phone between both. So that's always something nice to have, at least from that particular perspective. You're going to be able to go through and get like a really decent performing phone for the most part from that particular side. But with that being said, if you are wanting a phone that is going to be giving you the longer lasting, phone potentially, it might end up being something like the iPhone, 14 Pro Max, because it does have a little bit of a newer chipset there. When it kind of comes down to some other areas of these devices, another very important thing to keep in mind here too is that with something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this phone is going to be giving you a slightly, same size battery as the 14 Plus. So the 14 Plus could end up giving you overall better battery life in some situations. The reason for that is because with something like the iPhone 14 Plus, that particular phone basically is going to be giving you, a lower resolution display, not as powerful. You do have a higher likelihood of having like a longer lasting phone battery life wise inside of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Inside of the 14 Plus in that particular situation. So that right there is another big thing to keep in mind there too. Then finally, when it comes down to the performance, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is giving you the Apple A16 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigs of RAM. The 14 Plus is giving you the Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigs of RAM. So there's some similarity here going on for the most part. So you can kind of see that when you're looking at both these phones, they do share some similar things between them. But with that being said, if you're looking at both these devices, you have to remember that both of them have their pros and their cons. If you're going to go through and pick up a phone, it probably would make a lot more sense to go and look at something like an iPhone 14, Pro Max, because that one is not only going to be the faster one, but it's also going to be a phone that's going to be giving you things like, a ProMotion display that's going to make that phone feel a lot faster. And those types of devices will end up feeling and looking and performing probably a little bit better than you'd probably imagine in that particular situation as well. So that right there could be another one of those things to kind of keep in mind there. Although it's not the biggest deal in the world, you're going to be getting a faster performing device instead of something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So overall, to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I definitely will tell you is that I'm a massive, massive fan of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I genuinely do think that that's probably one of the better types of phones you can buy. And I will still tell you that if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, that's a very, very good option. Albeit it's not perfect, but I do think, for the most part, if you're going to pick up a phone, that's definitely the one I would recommend buying. If you're looking at something like an iPhone 14 Plus, I think this device is pretty good too, but I think it would make honestly more sense to go and buy something like an iPhone 14 Pro Max as of this point. So for that particular situation, that kind of covers it up there as well. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.